How many Earths would it take to sustain your lifestyle? According to the independent think tank Global Foodprint Network, the Earth is in an ecological deficit. Many countries are using more resources than the planet can handle. This deficit is called an ecological overshoot, and it's been going on since the 1970s. Today, we use the equivalent of 1.75 Earths worth of natural resources, but it's a lot more complicated than that. Some countries have larger ecological impacts than others. If everyone in the world ate like Kuwait does, we would need 5.1 Earths. Australian lifestyles would need 4.8 Earths. The United Arab Emirates would need 4.7. Qatar would need 4. And the United States would need 3.9. Canada, Sweden, Bahrain, Trinidad and Tobago, and Singapore are also in the top 10. Ecological footprints are measured through how much land, sea, and other natural resources are used to produce what people consume. This includes the food we eat, the clothes we buy, and the products we use daily. Here's how our choices make an impact every day. According to research from the universities of Exeter, Nijmegen, and Cambridge, driving an electric car is better for the environment in 95% of the world. The only exception is places like Poland, where the majority of energy still comes from coal. The average lifetime emissions of an electric car are 70% lower than petrol in countries like France and Sweden, and 30% lower in the UK. The study predicts that electric cars will become more popular as nations transition to clean energy, and that by 2050, every second car on the street will be electric.
Cars, buses, motorcycles, trucks, helicopters, and even ships. Electric vehicles are slowly but surely making inroads into the transportation industry.
This could reduce global CO2 emissions by up to 1.5 gigatons per year, the equivalent to the total current CO2 emissions of Russia. According to data from the United States Federal Transit Administration, using public transportation significantly reduces one's carbon footprint from transportation. A private vehicle emits nearly a pound of CO2 per mile. In contrast, taking the bus produces 33% less emissions. Subway systems produce 75% less. You may have already shifted to a fuel-efficient hybrid or electric vehicle, but what about your diet? Food production is responsible for 25% of the world's carbon emissions. Livestock and fisheries account for 31% of all food emissions. This includes manure management, pasture management, and fuel consumption from fishing vessels. Crop production accounts for 27% of emissions, and 6% of which is animal feed. These figures include all levels of production, from growing and raising to processing, transport, retail, and packaging. But the majority of emissions come from the raising stage.
When you're talking about animal agriculture, you're talking about carbon dioxide, but you're also talking about methane and nitrous oxide, and they trap heat differently. And in the case of nitrous oxide, they also deplete the ozone layer.
Producing a kilogram of beef emits 60 kilograms of greenhouse gases, while peas, a popular ingredient for plant-based meat like Beyond Burgers, emit just 1 kilogram per kilogram. Animal agriculture also takes up more land and water than growing plants. Livestock takes up nearly 80% of global agricultural land, but produces less than 20% of the calories humans consume. According to Our World in Data, a nonprofit online scientific publication that highlights research that can help solve global issues such as climate change and hunger. You can think of it kind of like a really stuck lid on a jar of peanut butter. If you spend 20 minutes trying to open it and there's only 1 spoonful of peanut butter left, you probably burned more calories than you gained. Now apply that to our entire food system. Agriculture also accounts for 92% of humanity's water footprint, and animal agriculture is about 33% of that. The majority comes from use in producing animal feed. In the US, 47% of soy and 60% of corn is fed to livestock. Meanwhile, 1.2 billion people around the world face water scarcity, and more than 820 million suffer from hunger. Here's how carbon footprints vary by diet. According to research from Oxford University, a plant-based diet reduces one's carbon footprint by as much as 73%. Researchers analyzed the environmental impact of 40 major foods across nearly 40,000 farms. Beef producers have an impact up to 50 times greater than plant-based proteins. They create 105 kilograms of CO2 equivalent and use 370 square meters of land per 100 grams of protein. Beans, peas, and other plant-based proteins can create just 0.3 kilograms of CO2 equivalent, which includes processing, packaging, and transport, and use just 1 square meter of land per 100 grams of protein. And if you think seafood is a more sustainable practice, aquaculture can emit more methane and create more greenhouse gases than cows. Packaging also makes up only a tiny portion of a food's overall carbon footprint. Bringing your own bags is a great way to reduce the amount of trash you generate. What about buying bottled water? Estimates show that manufacturing one PET plastic water bottle can produce up to 3 pounds of carbon emissions. The majority of drinks are packaged in new plastic. Top companies such as Nestle Water use only 6% of recycled plastic in its packaging. The majority of plastic ends up in landfills.
Take plastic waste. What you'd think would be easy to salvage and reuse. Well, the reality is, most of it either ends up buried in the ground or worse. It's exported to countries like Malaysia, a place we're now treating like a garbage bin.
According to the Environmental Protection Agency, only 8.4% of 2.4 million tons of plastic produced in 2017 were recycled. From landfills, plastic makes its way into the oceans and waterways, where it is broken down into microplastics, tiny particles that may be consumed by marine life. It's estimated that there are currently 270,000 tons, or 5.25 trillion pieces of microplastics in the oceans. The bottled water industry also feeds into another environmentally destructive business: fast fashion. Many plastic bottles aren't recycled into bottles. The PET is used to make fibers for clothing, and while this may sound like a positive thing, clothing made from recycled fibers don't actually divert plastic from the landfill, according to Maxine Bidat, founder of the New Standard Institute, an open-source tool that uses data to quantify sustainability in the fashion industry. A shirt made from recycled plastic will not decompose in the landfill, but a bottle made from recycled plastic can be recycled again. Beyond upcycled plastic, the fashion industry is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. Cheap and trendy, the fast fashion industry and its plastic-derived threads is damaging the environment.
Dumping is always cheaper. It's always the cheaper option. There's only one solution. The producer of the clothing is responsible cradle to grave. So they make the t-shirt, they sell the t-shirt comes back, they have to recycle that t-shirt. They can't put it in a third world country.
Every year, the fast fashion industry releases 500,000 microplastics into the ocean, according to the UK-based charity the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Clothing production has doubled in the last 18 years, primarily due to fast fashion. Large amounts of natural resources are used to produce cheap garments that are worn for only a short period of time. It takes 2,700 liters of water to make one cotton shirt, enough to supply one person with enough water for 2.5 years. Making a pair of jeans produces as many greenhouse gas emissions as driving a car more than 80 miles.
Well, producing denim and producing jeans is highly polluting, and it also requires a huge amount of natural resources. Now, research has indicated that just producing one pair of jeans requires 3,625 litres of water, 3 kilos of chemicals, and 400 megajoules of energy, which is the equivalent of running a light bulb on 24 hours a day for 116 days.
Discarded clothing made of non-biodegradable fabrics can sit in landfills for up to 200 years, contributing to carbon emissions from trash. We now throw away more clothing and wear it for less time than ever before in human history. The average number of times a garment is worn before it's thrown away has decreased 35% compared to just 15 years ago. Some garments are estimated to be thrown away after just 7 wears. One garbage truck full of clothes is burned at the landfill every second, and less than 1% of material used to produce clothing is recycled into new clothing. It's estimated that at the current rate of production, the clothing industry will pollute the ocean with 22 million tons of microplastics.
Synthetic materials like polyester, nylon, and acrylic are made of plastic fibres. These degrade and break up in a washing machine cycle.
If we take a domestic washing load, that could release up to 700,000 fibres in a single wash. Now that's going to go to wastewater treatment. Some of those fibres will be intercepted in wastewater treatment, but a good number will potentially escape to the environment.
So, is it possible to reduce how many Earths it takes to sustain our lifestyle without drastic changes? You can start with your daily choices. Take public transportation whenever possible, or better yet, try walking anywhere under 2 miles. It's better for the planet and your health. Thrift your clothing or buy from eco-friendly, slow fashion brands. And avoid animal products such as fur and leather. Remember to bring a reusable water bottle, coffee mug, and shopping bag whenever possible. Also try to make little swaps, like buying package-free beauty products and makeup. Try including more sustainable foods in your diet in place of meat, dairy, fish, and eggs. Today, there are more vegan versions of your favorites than ever before. There are burgers that bleed, cheeses that melt and stretch, milks that froth, and eggs that scramble, but all are made from healthier and more sustainable plant ingredients. Not only does eating plant-based reduce one's greenhouse gas emissions, it also saves water. Freshwater withdrawals fall by a quarter, and it also uses 76% less farmland. Eating plant-based just 50% of the time, and avoiding the highest impact foods such as beef, can achieve a 73% reduction in GHG emissions. You don't even need to change the way you eat. It's easier than ever to reduce the number of Earths needed to sustain our lifestyles and create a better world for everyone. That's it for today. What are your favorite ways of being environmentally friendly? Share your tips in the comments below. As always, remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell. New videos every Tuesday and Friday.